Always mind, the world is mental. In 21st century, we have forgotten who we are. We are afraid of the unknown. We live in a system of rules and principles, and we are so deep into it that we forget that we are the system itself. Since ancient times, all saints, Buddhists, yogis, mystics, shamans have known how to handle the principles of the universe and where they came from. To some, this is God, the Absolute. For others, the Akashic Records, the higher awareness, all there is, Source, and by thousands of other names throughout history. The important thing is that this global energetic field is the basis of all spiritual experience. It all started with physics, which briefly discovered that the electron in other particles could behave both as a particle and as a wave. At first, the explanation for this is called dualism of nature, duality, as we know it today. But then the next riddle comes out. It turns out that the results of these experiments are influenced by the experimenter himself, the one who chooses by us. And people with their own consciousness, which is proved now, drive nature under them. In the universe, everything is one, and it is no coincidence that the first element of the first Mendeleev's table, the chemical one, was different and it was called ether, but then they removed it. Here also comes the famous Thomas Young's double-slit experiment, which proves that everything that exists is energy and matter, and it's held in a certain field, coming to the conclusion that everything is a matter of different frequencies and vibrations. What is your vibration? What do you attract from your heart? What do you prefer to be? What do you wish to happen? There comes John Bell's theorem, which proves that particles are connected in a way that goes beyond time and space, and each particle affects all others. And thanks to the experiment of a group of Japanese physicists, Masaki Sano and his colleagues of the University of Tokyo, we now know that information and energy are the same thing. So, everything that exists in our universe is informational potential. Information, potential, bits of information. All is mind, the world, the universe is mental. The idea is based on Bell's theorem. When any potential changes, everything else around this potential also changes. And so the system remains in balance. This information in space is available to each and every one of us, and it is unused but capable of being transmitted through interaction. In other words, it is just potential or nothing. But what is nothingness? What is the essence of nothing? What is nothing? How do we know what it is if it's not there? Isn't it nothing? Also, it must be completely still, because if it starts to move, it will become something. If we try to describe it, it won't be nothing anymore. The very thought of nothingness turns it into something. And so one comes to the conclusion that nothingness must be lacking in order not to exist. That's possible only if it's indefinite. If someone defines it from the outside, he already thinks about it and it becomes something again. Therefore, the only option is to oppose nothing to itself. That is, well, to divide it into two. Yeah. So, imagine this. The one half we divide nothingness or nothing into two pieces, what happens? Something very interesting. One half will be the belief that it's something, okay? And the other, the doubt that it is nothing. The very action, the very act of nothingness is called thinking. And so nothing becomes something. René Descartes said it 370 years ago. The distinctive form of thinking is the self-evident fact whose existence does not require the existence of anything else. And this already is a definition of substance, an independent unit of being which contains different definitions, qualities, as the foundation of things for certainty. Thinking is the main argument for the existence of being. Thinking and existence are so intertwined that they coincide. Thinking is existence and existence is thinking. It is at the very beginning of things. Or the famous quote, cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am. From my teachers, from Cogitality, I share with you the whole meaning, which they suggest, I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am, which is kind of mind-boggling, but also sounds logical, because according to Descartes, thinking determines being and all existence. Nothing we have talked about so far can be called mind, potential of information for everyone and everything. But since it is not yet, let's say, manifested, but merely it's floating in space, it has no characteristics, it has no properties. The action between belief and doubt is what we call thinking, which is at the very beginning. It realizes manifestation, existence, being. Thus, all potential creates through thoughts a mental world. And here we come to the first principle of Hermes. All is mind. The universe is mental. It's all fluctuation. It's all information. It's all unrealized potential until we pick on those frequencies and transform them into matter. We do this, but I don't think that we realize it. We shape our own universe and create it into a matter that has a straightforward path, a past, a now, present, and a future. But from this outside cosmic perspective, it's not like that. It's all existing at the same time, simultaneously. We pick it and we somehow create our own puzzle in it. There is no separation and everything is the same. Thought, mind, that examines itself from different points of view, from different angles and aspects. Each element explores itself as it experiences itself from all the possible probabilities it can discover and know. It is through this action of thought, this action of consciousness that creates the world, as it is true that the world is contained in information potential, it is equally true that this potential is included in everything and everyone. Because imagine for a moment that you know everything. You know everything about each and every body in the universe, each and every outcome of every situation, of every choice that you make. If you know anything, is there any way to experience, let me ask you this, is there any way to experience a state of not knowing, a state of ignorance, if you know everything and have all the information, if you are source, for example, from this global perspective? Can you feel what is it, the state of ignorance? Think about it. Is there any way to know what is it like to not know if you know everything? In order for us to go through life and these vibrations of knowledge, we must forget that we are all the potential. Or otherwise it's not going to be that interesting, is it? And since the degree of oblivion itself can be most different and infinite in its variations, it is good to experience every act of forgetfulness. Some people realize this at the age of 20, others at the age of 50, but we all start to remember who we truly are. What is our purpose here on planet Earth, and what do we want to leave for others? Can we make conscious actions and conscious choices to create a conscious reality, or are we just moving with the flow, but more like the flow is moving us? These are two very different positions. In other words, to know ourselves, we must oppose ourselves. And we already do, and you may agree that each of us contains our opposite. Fear, anger, laziness, nagging, insults, complaints. On the other hand, courage, love, empathy, patience, respect. And I'll go to Descartes back again for a bit. Extension, as the name suggests, only extends, occupying the place, but somehow without a goal. The goal is set by thinking as far as the thinking is a symbol of the presence of higher knowledge. Even Descartes said that. So, the length has parameters: length, height, and width. Thus, space itself is a necessity for determining being and its appearance. And movement is possible in the presence of time, which is inseparably connected with space, obviously, and one flows into the other, space and time. The stretch has a single task: to break away and come out of nowhere, but it always remains connected to source. With an example, the so-called, everybody talks about the comfort zone. You need to get out of the comfort zone by doing something that you haven't done before, all right? But if every time, quite consciously, we choose to do familiar, comfortable things, we will not learn anything new, and at some point we will start to close down, ignore, be lazy, and blame the people around us. But instead, if we choose the new, that which we have not known, the so-called fears, unexpected plans, unexpected signs from whatever happens in your environment on a daily basis, we will always expand, we will accumulate and take in this new knowledge and move forward, not backwards. Time, space, and manifestation are always in a trinity. We can see this in the paradox of Albert Einstein's twins. It states that the faster we move, the slower time passes. All right, let's take a look at the experiment. Einstein says that if we have two twin brothers and we put one on a spaceship and it travels at the speed close to the speed of light, it's going very, very, very fast, right? But when he turns to Earth after 1 year, he finds himself about 10 years younger than his brother. The reason is that during this time, he is moving at a tremendous speed and time is running slowly for him. And for his brother on Earth, which moves many times slower than the speed of light, time runs faster. Thus, the one on Earth ages by normal 10 years, and the brother who returned from the cosmos aged by only 1 year. In 1992, this thought experiment was verified, it was proved, with two synchronized atomic clocks. When they put one on an artificial satellite of our planet, the speed of the satellite is 8 to 11 kilometers per second. It leaves behind the clock left on Earth, and it's proven that time runs slower for it. Okay, but what does this mean for our normal lives and on a normal language? Well, What happens if we look this in reverse? What happens to time if there is no motion? If the slower we move, the faster time flows. But if everything is at rest, well, time should tend to infinity. This leads to the conclusion that stillness or nothingness contains all information and all energy. And it's all happening in a single place. Here, in a single time. Now, in a single dot. And it all contains the now, the so-called God particle, the X point. Scientists believe that if energy is infinite, then space turns out to be zero, nothing. It all collapses into one point. Kind of like if you add up thousands and thousands of zeros, the answer ends up being zero again. Well, that is this state of rest, if it's only one. Let's put it in another way. How many numbers are there from 0 to 1? And how many are there from 1 to infinity? All right. So the question that follows is, which infinity of the two is greater, is bigger, is larger? Think about it. From 0 to 1 and from 1 to infinity. Which infinity is bigger? Absurd, right? Infinity is infinity. And in this infinity, this state of rest, also time flows so fast that it approaches infinity. Everything happens here and now. Any deviation from this is already moving at a specific speed. Anything different from this point is not infinite. Let's put it in this way. It has a particular speed, velocity, no longer infinite. And of course, the information, the vibrations around it, the potential around it, they're not infinite as well. They may be a lot, but they're not infinite. So the energy is not infinite either. Why am I taking you through those conclusions? Well, to remind each one of us together that in this case, the information around us, it does not disappear. The energy is not lost. And we sense it as humans. How do you think we achieve all of our dreams? How do you think we wish something and the universe delivers it for us? How do you think this happens? Well, all the energy already, all the potential, all the variations must exist right now so that you could, in a sense, bring it down from somewhere, download it from somewhere. Or how do you explain it? It must already exist in some form of wave, energy, potential in order for you to bring it down, manifest it to the matter. So, if we are all this potential, then it separates, forgets, transforms, so that it can experience precisely these ignorances through each and every one of us, through the trees, through the stones, through the chairs, through the waves, through the seas, through the oceans, through nature itself, through everybody, through everything that is. The Fibonacci sequence shows us this through the logarithmic spiral, the golden ratio, the spin orientation. This is, for example, the sunflower seeds are honeycombs, snail spirals, insect eyes, tree leaves, galaxies, fingerprints. Everything follows this pattern. In the esoteric book Kybalion, it is said that the whole must be all that reality represents, and nothing can exist outside of the whole. Otherwise, the whole would not be the whole. Now, think about this. If, for example, you believe in God, that God exists, that God is all, right? The famous saying. If God is all, can God exist without you? You see, the whole cannot exist and won't be the whole without you playing a specific part in it. Doesn't matter the size, the form, the shape, doesn't really matter. The whole cannot be the whole without you, because it is the whole. Just like the nothingness that we started with. Well, nothing cannot be nothing if you think about it, if you determine it in a way. You see where I'm getting? If you try to describe it, it's something, but it's not nothing. It's something. So the whole must be infinite because it has nothing else to define, to limit, to set boundaries. All that it creates is an infinite mind, innumerable worlds which exist for eons of time, and yet, pay attention, all creation, development, decay, and death, for the millions of worlds is like the time of the blinking of an eyelid. Happens for a moment. There you have it, coded in the Kybalion, the Hermetic texts. You have it there. It's all happening at the same time. That's the secret that they didn't want you to know back in the old days. So it all happens in extended some form, in some way. We do not understand it yet. In an extended version of time, period, to infinity, but at the same time in a single moment. This does not mean that we should live like sleepwalkers and neglect everyday practical things that we care about, work and life as a normal human being, because that's what we are here to do. To understand what it is to be human, what it is to feel pain, fear, love. What is it, the experience of, let's say, falling in love? What is it like to help someone, to be there for someone? These are all beautiful things that we should experience and not lock ourselves into this position, striving only for knowledge and spiritual awakening and fuck all the other people. No. We should find the balance point, the neutrality of things, the synchronization between the material and the spiritual, the manifested and the unmanifested. Then we will be masters of our own faith. That's where I stand for, and I certainly believe. The idea is to explore every aspect of reality by embracing these principles, not rejecting everyone and everything, not judging, not comparing, not mocking, not just to do the best we can in this particular moment, the best of our abilities, to live as long as possible and to follow the example of those wiser than ourselves by giving it to those around us. The mental world is illusionary. It's an illusion. It's Maya. Matter is actually energy. It's all potential. It is. But if we hadn't forgotten all that, we wouldn't be here in this form trying to relearn it in a way. Because why would you do it? If you're here and you're understanding this now, that everything is an illusion, you create your own reality, everything is synchronicity, everything vibrates, everything flows, everything fluctuates, but you can choose in any certain moment, any single choice creates a new field in the quantum field, informational and energy. What would you do? So I do think this is a paradox, but at the same time it's the answer to all of our questions, because this eternal seeking of knowledge, this eternal and infinite spiritual awakening, well, it is already us in a way. And we've given ourselves a permission in a way, a a chance to play as a different figure on the chessboard and to experience what it is to feel like the pawn, for example, from the pawn's perspective on this chessboard, and to play the game of chess, what it is to move forward, to move backwards, and so on. And next time we can be the king, next time we can be the queen, but again we will play on the chessboard. So the question arises, how many chessboards are there? Well, quantum physics tells us infinite amounts of chessboards. So how many lives do we have? If this potential and energy is infinite, if all is mind, or everything is information and energy, well, energy cannot disappear, can it? Think about it. Put it in your mind. If from today on you live your life with the knowledge that we do not live in a material world but in a mental one, and you just put this in your nervous system and try to create this habit of reminding yourself that no matter what happens, it's all a trick. It's a trick. But you create this trick in order to experience yourself knowing and to understand that it's a trick. If we truly remember that the mind is the supreme power, all miracles, coincidences, and sorceries are revealed in their real essence. And if we learn to use this principle, we will never look at the world with the same eyes. If we truly understand the Hermetic Principle, our life will never be the same again. We will start attracting the right people at the right places, at the right timing. The right things will fall and will come to us at the right time, in the perfect timing, in order for us to evolve and to examine, to investigate and to play with our passion and with what we truly and deeply desire. Why do you think in the traditional church and religion they talk about the devil, Satan, and desires? Well, if we flip this and come back to the modern metaphysics and science perspective, this desire is actually our choice, our wish, our true attraction of what we want to achieve right now, of what we want to experience right now. Doesn't matter if it's getting a free apple, getting a chocolate, buying that dream house, that dream car, attracting that person that we want to spend our lives together with. Doesn't matter actually. What really matters is for you to be conscious of your choices, to know that everything is mental, and to absolutely understand that you are connected to this all, whole, God, source, informational field, absolute, Akashic records, doesn't really matter. You are connected, because if you weren't connected, you wouldn't exist. You can feel the experience of this connection, but that's just because you are connected and you for a moment believed in something else. You're always connected to that ether, to that information, to that energy. And the question here is, do you want to learn how to use this first principle? Because actually it has always been inside of you. You're just now starting to remember. As always, it has been a pleasure. Thank you guys. The next 7 Mondays, we're going for the 8 Hermetic Principles. That's right, they're not 7. There is an 8 special one, which is famous for the law that was not known. The forbidden 8 Hermetic Principle that combines all of the 7 and makes the magic happen, as we say. So the next 7 Mondays, we're hopping up on a journey through ourselves, on a journey to find many more aspects of ourselves that are being suppressed, that are being ignored, or that are just not yet found. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful to somebody. I have been studying these 8 Hermetic Principles for a long period now. I do think 7, 8 years, not sure. And it's my absolute privilege and honor to share them with you. This is something new for me, so excuse me if you cannot understand me. I'm not native English, but I'm trying my best. And I do believe that we will create some form of a partnership and understanding, and everything will be nice, and everyone will unlock their hidden potential and will find what truly inspires them, and what truly you want to do with your life, because that's the most important thing. If you follow your deepest excitement and passion and combine this with the principles of the universe, well, you actually become a master of reality itself, and then you can help others by doing the exact same. Then, by that, we create a new world and we change it. We change it for better. We create a more harmonious and united humanity and a more conscious one. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.